Thank you.
Let me introduce our guest speaker of today's session. Dr. Ankita Sharma is an associate professor of psychology and head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences in IIT Jodhpur. She is a gerontologist and positive psychologist. Her major research work is on aging, wisdom, decision making, and social cognition. She has more than 10 years of academic experience and is a diligent researcher. She is actively involved in student well-being activities and is a soft skill trainer. Before I could give the floor to the presentation, ma'am, I have a small request. What is gerontologist? I just want to know from your side.
Sure. So actually, studying phenomena of old age, elderly people, that area is called gerontology. And in medical field, the same thing is called as a geriatric, right? You may have heard of geriatric departments. So when in psychology, we do all studies related to old people, old age, that is called as a gerontology.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Yeah, the floor is yours, ma'am. Thank you. Please
Sure.
take this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just let me share my screen and then we can start.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
I don't
It
have.
has been enabled, ma'am.
Okay, let me check. Still says it's disabled for me.
It will take some 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, okay.
Ma'am, please check now. I have re-enabled the permissions.
Yes, I got it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So great. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really happy that I got a chance to talk to so many people. And the topic told to me that I have to take care of is maintaining mental and physical health. Being a psychologist, this is something like a daily thing for me. So I'm like really happy that I have something to share with you all. What I'm planning to talk today is covering quite a lot of things. Let me just give you a glimpse. So let me start with myself. Ma'am has already explained, but in a simpler terms, I'm a psychologist. I am at IIT Jodhpur right now. And I have been academician and soft skill trainer since always. And because I specialize in counseling and clinical psychology as well. So I have been always involved with mental health initiatives, right? So today what I want to do is give you a glimpse of quite a lot of things, which is specifically very important in the current circumstances. What I mean by current circumstance is specifically related to this pandemic time. Some people are using the term post-pandemic. I'm not really sure if we have, come out of pandemic to say that post-pandemic. We keep hearing news about third wave. I don't know how many waves. What I want to talk is that we are still possibly in pandemic. And this pandemic has changed the whole world. So I don't want to focus on pandemic, but the changes it has brought in our daily life, how that is affecting our physical and mental health. And I want to focus on this point from the perspective of us as teachers, professionals, and also what we can do for our students. So I want to cover that whole spectrum. So what I want to give you a brief about the kind of problems psychologists are identifying. We are doing a lot of studies globally on these issues. So there are a lot. What I would talk briefly about issues of adults as an employees, problems and issues what teenagers are feeling, teenagers specifically who are in student life. There can be some prior and after that also. Then what are certain symptoms if we see them in anyone, in ourselves, in people around us, among our students? We can pick them up to identify that the person needs help there. Okay, so I'll talk about some of those. Then I will move to what does it mean by mental health and illness technically? What is the definition? Because there are at times certain confusions about it. And because I need to talk about physical and mental health both, so we need to understand the dynamic going on over there. Then I'll talk about the levels at which what we function. So how do we understand, am I doing okay right now, am I not doing okay? If I'm not doing okay, up to what level it's not okay? Is it like going towards some clinical condition where I need help from a doctor? So I'll talk about that, and finally I'll talk about helping others, at the same time helping our own self. Okay, so I have decided to talk about a lot because I consciously decided to give you a overview of this whole idea. So I may not get into the details of it very deeper, but if you have any question, I'll be happy to discuss that at the end or also in between. So if madam allows and others want to have a discussion in between also, I'm perfectly fine with that. So let me start, okay, formally. And one thing, the picture speaks, 1,000 words. So you can see, even in our Indian society, we know that we all have been doing multitasking in last 1.5 year, more than we have ever done before. Be it a woman or a man, we all are doing multiple things, taking care of office, taking care of home. We have taken multiple roles today. So in addition to being the bread earner for our family, we have become teachers for our students because homeschooling is going on right now. We have become the shoppers. Everything needs to be shopped. You need to take care of it. You have become the primary caretaker because for everything you can't really go to hospital. So many additional roles which were not there. So the problem comes, the whole tagline is that how do we juggle between all these responsibilities? So specifically, that is the issue for all the adults. What are these issues? What are specifically going on over there? So if we look at these problems, let's just count the facts quickly. During this pandemic time, and it is still the case for most of us, if not completely, but at least some restricted level, childrens are locked in house, online teaching is going on, and all the issues due to being in house and doing online teaching. We know, we have heard of that children getting very irritated because they are not able to go outside and play with their kids the way they want to. They're not able to go to schools and meet their teachers, their friends in a classroom. So many hours of screen time, that's creating a whole gamut lot of issues, right? That's happening for children as well as for us. So that is one set of problems. Now if we talk about, let's say, teenagers, what's happening? We always know that the biggest time of tussle between parents, grandparents, and children is when they are in teenage, right? Because they want certain level of freedoms and there is always some conflict going on. And imagine in COVID, they are forced to stay indoors, everybody. So people are already irritated and they are forced to endure each other and they don't have any escape. So the amount of issues which are happening due to it, maybe you have seen it already in your house or any of your neighboring or relatives' house. Then for teenagers, another significant issue right now is that all important things, they're missing from their school. In teenage, friendship, school, college, giving exams, getting results, feeling good or bad about it. Those things are gone out of drain, right? We know that last year board examination, almost all board examination marks were given as per the internal assessment. It's a completely different set of story. They are worried about their career and all of that is going on. And plus, many of them are trying out their relationship and not being able to meet opposite gender. That has created a lot of stress for them. Now move to early adults, right? Early adults, people who are just about to switch to adult life, people who have completed their graduation, completing graduation, and they're supposed to go to jobs. The whole term is coined called batch 2020. Batch 2020 is a term given to people who are graduating, who were graduating in 2020, who couldn't attend last year of their college, who couldn't go to their valedictory session, who couldn't meet their peers for last year of that college. And we all know college is a golden year of our life, and they missed it. So all the issues of missing these things, opportunities are lesser, people are scared about job possibilities, all of that is making them really troubled. Move to the working adults and think of people who are working but living somewhere alone. In some city somebody is living, everybody else is living in some other place, they can't meet them, they are scared for them. Or think of people who have working parents, so both husband and wife are working, and there are people who need a care in family, so they have small children, they have elderlies, they have to work, and at the same time they have to take care of all of these people. Work from home where boundaries are totally gone. I can talk about myself. There are no Saturdays and Sundays because people think it's a work from home, so even on Saturdays you can have meetings, whereas usually we have 5 days a week. And so imagine everything you need to do and you don't get a weekend to relax yourself. So working adults are going through another set of issues. Specifically for women, think of increased load. And everybody can empathize with that. If you don't have helping hands at home, especially the maids and support system, then the amount of work which has increased with work from home, it's just totally, overwhelming. And lastly, think of elderly people. They can't go out. They are not able to meet to other people of their age group. Their physical condition is something. And imagine if some of them are living alone. We all know and we all have seen all of these conditions in one or the other way with people. And so it's pretty understandable that people will have mental health issues. People are feeling tremendous amount of stress. Many of us have irrational anxieties. Many of them have developed, depressive symptoms or many such similar issues. Point is, what can we do about it? What can we, how do we handle these responsibilities? So the factors, if we look at and we try to summarize, specifically for adults, the important factors which are coming to creating mental health issues are work from home, if both husband and wife are working, if support system or the helping hands are not available, managing everything, additional burden of doing the whole homeschooling, and then dependency on technology. So we know that during pandemic time, many of us have learned online shopping, online payment, which many of us were not aware beforehand. And on top of that, all that, fear of cybercrime or financial fraud, which happens. So combining all of these factors has led to issues. Let's talk about slightly other factors also, specifically us adults as employees. Think of it, as I was saying, that it seems that now there is no boundary between office life and personal life. Maybe for most of us, there used to be a time when 10 to 5 or 9 to 6 was our working hour. And after that, it was our time for ourselves, for family, for fun, for recreation, for anything. Now it seems like it's not the case. Even once your office hours are over, you're still working. Imagine other people who are very passionate about their work, so another term which is called as a passion tax. People who are very passionate about their work, they are feeling burnt out because there is no boundary between working hours and non-working hours. So you're always on job, and that creates an issue for you, and you feel burnt out. You feel all your resources, energy is drained. You don't have any more energy to give up to. And yet, at the same time, performance pressure is too much, right? Till last year, all of you must have seen on Facebook the trend of I have attended these many seminars, I have attended these many workshops, because all of a sudden there was flooding of online sessions. Even right now we are doing online session, but thank God, this is faculty development program, which has always been there. This is for our development, but you have seen that amount of things which were going on, and that created a different sort of a pressure that you need to learn new things. Why not that even surviving, doing the basic thing is okay, being happy is okay? Why there was so much of pressure of that you have to do more things, you have to show that you are working? And then stereotype with working parents, that they can't take care of everything else because they are so engrossed in their work. And you know, another fear which may not be very relevant to each one of us, but set of people, especially people working in industrial setting, lot of companies started monitoring how long their employees are actually on work. They started monitoring how much you are actually working. And one way to do that, what they did was, it is called key logging. That means whatever you are doing on your computer and internet, people were watching those. Industries started watching those to make sure the amount of hours you are dedicating to your work. You can imagine the kind of stress that creates in people's mind, right? And lastly, when technology fails you. So today itself, madam told me that, ma'am, please join few minutes before so that we can check. We all have had the experience of, you know, all of a sudden audio not working, you're not able to share your file, or all of a sudden signal drops and you're not able to work it. So technology fails you and all of a sudden you're frustrated. So frustrated, irritated, stressed out because of so much, right? In any case, it isn't that life is not already full of stressful situation, but now there are multitude which is added to it. So if we talk about adults, those many issues. What about teenagers? What about students? What specifically has happened to them? We already know that adolescent or teenage is a time when they are really stressed out because they are going through so much. They are thinking and developing their own values, what they want to follow in their life, their goals in their life. They are transitioning from a child to adolescent to adult. So what really happened during pandemic for them? Let me just present you.
Can I ask you one question?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, performance pressure, you refer to the pressure at a workplace or at
Yes.
home? Which one you refer to? Because
Okay, when I explained, I talked about the workplace. But when you are referring to home, I can talk about that as well, but not exactly in the same way. Imagine during the first lockdown, if you remember, lot of stories and then Facebook posts used to come that women, finally all family members were spending time at home. They were cooking for them, taking care of them, you know, trying to make their life comfortable. For, I don't know, maybe first time in their life, everybody was staying at home for the whole day. And so kind of a performance pressure occurred there also. And not only for females, for males also, you know, there was a pressure to help the people, take care of children, and then do well, trying to take care of elderly people. So even at that level, people were sort of pressurized, and it was felt more, may not really objectively be there. So it can be both, not only workplace.
okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, so as I was saying that, let me give you some data. And UNESCO in 2021 itself did a survey. By the way, this is inclusive of Indian data also, but this is a global data. So some of the results, what they have got, I'm just showing you a glimpse of it. All right. What they found is that young women, 27% of them feel anxiety, and 15% of them reported having depression. Okay, anxiety and depression, I'm talking about a clinical condition, okay, a disease. Then 1 in 2 people were not feeling really doing things what would they usually do, starting from exercising to you know, walking, listening to music. And this is actually an indicative of something going wrong. You know, when you don't feel like doing anything, you feel like, you know, you just want to be a couch potato, just lie on bed, this is an symbol of you not feeling good within, physically and mentally both. Then, if you look at feeling pessimistic about future, 43% of women felt pessimistic. They don't know what will happen in future, and they were feeling very bleak about it. And 31% of men said the same thing. Then, when we talk about seeking help, we know that anyway psychological help, it's a very stigmatized and taboo topic. The moment somebody thinks of seeking help, they are scared that what others will think. If people get to know that I am trying to meet a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they will think that I am I'm insane, or मैं पागल हो गया हूँ और हो गई हूँ. So there is a lot of stereotype with that already. And what was found is that out of three, only one people sought help from their close people, friends and family members. When we talk about professional help, it was even bad. Only 2 people out of 5, actually went out and sought help. So it's not a good condition. And look at this number, especially this is for teenagers. The major issues which are anxiety, depression, sleep issues, withdrawal from family, and this is a good percentage. This is not less. So a lot of issues and problems people are facing, and we don't really have much of awareness about it. People are doing a lot. People are trying to generate awareness, but possibly because all of us are going through, a lot more is needed to handle it. How do we handle it? First thing always comes is being able to identify when somebody needs help. So what are those signs which tells us that other person is in need of help? And many times we do not observe it for our own self. At times we are so working on robot mode, trying to take care of everything, complete every task and everything in your to-do list. We don't realize that you are also burning out, you are also breaking down, you also need something. So what are those signs we can be conscious about? And if we see it in someone, we try to extend help, or we try to seek help. Some of the most common one, which are not necessarily related to any disease or clinical condition, but are indicated. Please understand that just observing this doesn't mean that the person cannot function. This doesn't mean that they need immediately psychiatric help. It just means that the person is going through a rough time, and that needs to be handled. What are these signs? Something which is most common is being aware of any abrupt change. If a person is all of a I hope I'm audible, because in between I
Yes,
saw.
no. Yeah, just now I have muted everybody because I was hearing a background noise.
Sure,
So,
I understand.
Yeah.
No issues. Okay. So as I was saying that, being aware if there is any sudden change in behavior of people around you, whom you know how they usually behave. If there is any sudden change and it continues for some days, obviously we know that there is something wrong, something is bothering the person. Another symptom could be that if a person is being very hyper emotional, which that person is usually not. Let's say a person don't usually cries, but all of a sudden the person is as if just on a brink of cry. Something happens and then the eyes start pouring the water. If that is happening, or there is a quick anger outburst is happening even without no reason at all. So emotionality is another symbol, thinking that possibly there is something going on. Another is if a person is very irritated. If a student is showing all of a sudden disinterest in the class, inattentiveness in the class, their performance is going down. That's another symptom. Another part what teachers can easily see is if all of a sudden a student starts depending on you. They are continuously asking your time, they are seeking your attention, they're trying to talk to you very often, what they usually don't do, then that's another symbol. Finally, if you look at sudden changes in weight, food intake and sleep, either less or more. So abrupt change in behavior, emotionality, changes in sleep, food and weight. These are the most common symptoms we can be perceptive about, which tells us that there is something going on with it. Okay, so if we understand and keep these signs and symptoms in our mind, at least we'll be able to identify when someone needs a proper help, or at least just a listening ear and a consoling shoulder or crying shoulder. That is what can be done. Okay, so how do we manage this? How do we balance between seeking support for our own self and providing support? Because at times we need to do both. At times we ourselves in a situation who needs that helping hand, shoulder to cry on, ear to listen to our problems, but roles are reversal also. You also need to do the same thing for other people. How do you do that? What I want to emphasize here is that mostly what we do is we try to help others, but we forget to take care of our own self. We forget that we are also people, we are also individual, and we say that we'll handle our own problems by our own and try to help those people out there in family or people around you. How do we balance that? Now, before I get into balancing that, let's talk about mental health and illness first. Let's try to understand what that is technically speaking. Okay, I won't bore you with a lot of technicalities, but some basic details so you have clear understanding of it. So let's complete the circle and let's talk about health and then illness. So health and illness, especially mental health and illness. I was saying that there are a lot of stereotypes related to illness, mental illness specifically. And the moment you see somebody is taking psychiatric help, even you or any of us may think very negatively about the about that person. So what are these perception and misconceptions? Some of the previous sessions what I have taken, I asked one question to almost everybody, that what do we think? Do mentally ill people, are they dangerous? What do you guys think? Please raise your hand. How many of you agree that mentally ill people are dangerous? Let's see. Okay, one person. I don't see anybody else. So this is my way of seeing how many of the people are actually there. Okay, so one person says that mentally ill people can be dangerous. Okay, next question is mentally ill people can still work properly in professional setting. If you agree with the statement, raise your hand. Mentally ill people can still function properly at the workplace. Okay, quite a few people raised hand. All right, my third question is that mentally ill people find it difficult to handle their day-to-day life. Raise your hand if you agree. Okay, not that many, but still there are some hands. Okay, another question. How many of you think that mental illness can be treated if you just do proper exercise and then take a proper nutrition, and then it can be handled? Raise your hand if you think that mental illness can be handled with that. And if you don't agree with that, remember to lower down your hand, please. Quite a few. Okay, please drop your hands. And my last question. How many of you think, please raise your hand if you think that mental illness will impact, people around them may also develop similar mental illness, just because being around them, not in sense of virus infecting others, or bacteria being that, but in some way psychologically influencing other people. It influences other people and make them others also ill. If you agree, raise your hand. Being around mentally ill people may make you also mentally ill. Few people. Okay. All right. Thank you for participating in discussion. I know that usually having one-on-one discussion gets difficult in such sessions, but still, at least, some interactivity should be there. And now let me give you the empirical answers to those questions I asked. So mentally ill people are dangerous. My first question, right? Not necessary. Not all mental illness are same. There are few mental illness conditions in which the person may not have control over their actions and behaviors, which may lead to some dangerous act for themselves and people around them, but not all. Okay, so the most common ones, for example, anxiety, bipolar disorder, depression, these are the conditions which are most common. They are not really dangerous at all, neither for the individual themselves or people around them. There can be one or two situation when there is a severity where something can go problematic, but in general, no. However, there are certain conditions where it can be dangerous. Okay, so it's not a blanket statement. My another question was that, do you think that mentally ill people can function at their workplace? Most of the situations, yes, they find it difficult. It's very struggling for them, but they still can perform. There is no problem in that. And specifically, if they are taking treatment. So my another question was that, can most of the mental illnesses be treated by taking a proper exercise and proper diet? That's not sufficient. We have to understand the way any physical illness requires the appropriate treatment to take care of symptoms and causes. In a same fashion, every mental illness also has its own causes and symptoms, and an appropriate treatment is required to take care of those. A proper exercise and diet may help, but it's not sufficient in itself. I'm not talking about only a mental stress. I'm talking about a illness, right? Then my other question was that, can it affect people around them? Yes, it can affect people around them, but only in a sense, the way we feel bad, the way we feel sad when you see something bad happening with other people. Mental illness is not contagious. It's not something that, just because you see another person, you spend time with them, you also develop. So being there for someone who's going through a rough patch, who has a mental condition, is not going to infect you. The only thing what you may feel is burden of somebody else's pain. I'm not saying it's a small thing. Caretaker's burden is quite a lot, but it's not very harmful for your own health as a primary condition. I just gave you some of very common statements, right? There are many such misconceptions. There are many such perceptions which are making handling this mental illness and mental stress problematic in our society. It's not making it easier. You can think in your own self. We don't need to really have a chat about it, but we know how many of us feel very comfortable in sending any of our close one to a psychiatrist and psychologist. You will think 10 times before sending it to them, but you won't even think single times to visit a doctor. Even if you are feeling, you just have a cold, you are just sneezing, you'll go and visit the doctor, right? But if you are going through some psychological pains, unless it goes to extreme, or some doctor tells you that now you need a psychiatric help, then also you think twice and then we seek help. Why is that happening? The reason is the stereotypes and misconceptions we have in our society. Not only our society, it's global. Most of the places it is there. Some places it's a lot, some places it's slightly less, but it is there. and we need to do something about it. How do we do something about it? One possible way is to understand them properly. And understanding starts with something what we are comfortable and then connecting it with the problematic issue. So physical health or physical illness, we all are comfortable, right? You know a lot about, so the moment you hear about some disease, some illness, you also check, okay, what does that mean? So let's say I tell you about ulcer. Most of you know what ulcer is. If I tell you about migraine, most of you know what migraine is. If I tell you heart conditions, right? Cardiomyopic diseases, you must, you must know a bit about those. So we all know about physical health. Is there any connection between physical and mental health or physical and mental illness? Let me give you an example from COVID times itself. COVID is primarily a physical condition, right? We know that coronavirus influences us physically, mostly our respiratory system and all of that. But there are certain studies also going on which tells that there may possibly be a connection of mental issues people are going through and between coronavirus. Okay, that's one. That not getting into specificity of it, think of it whenever you had any physical ailment, right? As simple as having a cold, cough and cold. Aren't you feeling low at that time? Slightly, feeling low, feeling sad, feeling in a bad mood? What we need to understand that we as a person, as a system, it's a whole system. Our body and our mind is connected. If something goes wrong with your body, it is felt in mind also. And if something goes wrong in your mind, it is felt in body as well. There is this whole set of disease which is called psychosomatic diseases. What does psychosomatic disease means? That a disease which may have a physical cause but a psychological symptom, or a psychological cause and a physical symptom. Let me give you an example to make this easier. So physical cause, psychological symptom. One of the extreme example could be autism. If you have heard about autism, especially that goes on in autistic children, the reason for autism is biological, physical. But symptoms what they have is mostly psychological. Those children find it difficult to interact with people. Those children, they find it difficult to connect with people. They are mostly isolated. So there is nothing wrong with their intelligence, but emotionally there are a lot of issues. These are some of the common symptoms. And the reason is purely physiological. There is nothing psychological there. Okay, let me give you another example of a physical reason, but a psychological symptom. Okay, I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but there is a whole thing called pseudoparalysis, right? Or a phantom pain. So what is possible is that there is a pain in one part of your body, reason is in one part of your body, but you feel pain at someplace else. A very common example could be that there is something wrong with your tooth, right? But you feel headache or you may feel pain in your ear. What is happening there? The pain is a psychological symptom, right? One, which is not directly related to the cause there in your tooth. So a very common possibility, and a lot of time it happens that the situation or the reason is physical and you have psychological symptoms. Very commonly, and most commonly actually, any physical condition comes with certain psychological issues and symptoms as well. Now, let me give you an example to the other way around. Psychological symptoms or psychological reasons manifesting in physical condition. I just took the name of ulcer, heart diseases, and migraine. One of a very common cause for ulcer, peptic ulcer, is stress, a common stress. Not getting into the whole dynamic of that, how when a person is in continuous stress, what happens in body, and then the changes in body actually leads to development of ulcer in a long run. But it is medically proven that the long-term and continuous stress is one of the leading causes of ulcer. It is one of the leading causes of heart-related diseases, and it is one of the leading cause of migraine. Okay, a cautious word here. I'm not saying that stress is the only cause. There are other physical conditions also which may result into heart condition or peptic ulcer or migraine or any of those diseases. But stress as a psychological condition is one important factor there. So if we understand this whole set of psychosomatic diseases, we need to understand that body and mind is connected. And we all know the saying that healthy mind lives in a healthy body, and vice versa, by the way, I believe in. So what we need is the balance between both. Unless body and mind both are in good shape, we don't have health. Okay. Now, before I move into next points, I want to talk a bit more about mental health. And instead of me talking too much, one-way talking, let me show you a video. I request ma'am to tell me if the video is playing and it's audible also. Just confirm that to me. I hope video is visible and audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But we are not able to hear that. I hope it is not audible. Do you have the music with that or something? Ma'am, it's not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yes, the video is supposed to have a music and a dialogues with it. You are not able to hear it?
No.
Okay, let me try it again. Okay, just give me a moment. Can you hear the music now?
It's not audible, ma'am.
It's not audible. Okay, no problem. Maybe there is some compatibility issue. So no issues. Look at the video and I'll continue giving narration with the video, what it says. All right. So the video says that everybody has a mental health, right? And then it goes on telling a story about a person, Shasha's story. So she says that Shasha was going through a lot of performance anxiety. She had a lot of thoughts running in her mind. She was stressed about her test and she didn't get good marks in that test. She went home and she cried in front of her mom. And her mother said that just like physical health, everybody has mental health. It's our feelings, it's our thoughts, it's our emotions, our moods. And she said that every emotion and stress is part of life, you know, a good one and a bad one. We all have positive and negative emotions, and they bombard us with things going on in our life. So we all experience negative emotions, and we don't need to ignore them. we feel stressed, and then we have to take care of it. Whenever we feel down, at least what we can do is do certain things which make us happy, be it watching movie, taking a coffee, doing anything. So Shasha tried that and she felt much better. And then she's saying that possibly my mother also need to do something for herself. Next story is about Andre. Andre is a boy, and then he always shares good thing about his life with others. Uh, but when he's alone, he always thinks so much negative. There are so many thoughts which are always negatively running around his mind. The more day goes on, the more those negative thoughts come to his mind. And some days are so bad that he feels like he's drowning in those negative thoughts. He was so scared, but he never tried to share it with his friends. With them, he always tried to mask it and laugh it. Then one day, Shasha came out to him and told him that how she was stressed out and her mother helped her. Andre said that sometimes he also feels low. He didn't say much, but then Shasha said that why don't you try to seek help from someone or do something which is enjoyable for you. Andre also tried, watched movies, spent time with others, but even with others, he felt sad. He felt alone. Shasha observed that Andre is still not happy and it's not working, things which work for her. So she went and asked the school counselor to talk to him, to Andre. And Shasha also then said to Andre that why don't you go and meet the school counselor? Andre didn't wanted to do that, but he thought that why not try it? And he went and met the school counselor. And they discussed about the emotions and the stress he was feeling, and which is continuously going on in his life. They had a discussion. And then Andre said that you should let people know, talk about exactly what you are feeling, because health includes both. The school counselor said that sometimes it happens with each one of us. Each one of us go through certain phases and each one of us need to handle it differently. So the school counselor said that maybe exercise will help you. Maybe doing something else will help you. Maybe mindfulness will help you. And Andre realized that he needs to find what works for him. And he started doing it. And gradually, he realized that there are so many people he could have talked to. Not only school counselor, it can be his family, friends, adults at school, his sports coach, anyone. And then gradually, Andre started doing it. And then he felt much better. And then talked to Shasha that there are different things people can try writing it, playing with their pets, listening to music, painting, drawing, anything. The important point is that go and seek help. Go and talk to someone. If you're not able to handle it by your own self, talk to others. Maybe they have some solution for you. So we all have mental health, and what we need is to take care of it. Okay. So that was about the video. What I wanted to say through this video is that the same solution doesn't work for everyone, but there is a solution for everyone. What we need is to find it. The problem is that that's not what we are doing. The problem is that we ignore mental health issue by thinking that it will get better by itself, by thinking that by time it will become better, or being scared that what if we share it with others and others don't understand it or they mock us. So there is another saying, people say that share your happiness but don't share your sorrows, face them by your own self. That's a wrong thing. That's a wrong practice what we have adopted in our society, in our culture. So I talked about mental health and illness. What about, I talked about illness, physical illness and mental illness. What about health? How do we understand health? If you look at the definition of health, it says that it's a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, not just absence of disease. So even the world's most important agency on health says that it's just not about physically being okay. If you don't have any disease, you are healthy. It's not that. When we talk about health, it talks about having a well-being. However, there's a small issue with this definition. It says complete state. We all know that it's hardly possible to be in a complete healthy state. There's always some or the minor issue. One day you may have, slight body pain or headache. Does that mean you are unhealthy? If we follow this definition, then we are. So there are other variations which are suggested that possibly we need a slight modification in our definition of health, because let's say a person has some serious physical or mental illness, but they're still trying to figure out how to lead their life. Should we call them unhealthy? How do we understand it? Let's say a lot of stories we hear about cancer patients, right? Cancer survivors. People who have cancer and still trying to take the treatment and live a good life. Should we call them ill in the extreme sense? Is that how we should understand it? So certain other alternatives which are given, that possibly when we think of health, we need to define it in a much broader sense. What it could be. One, should we really accept that it's just an absence of disease or impairment? Possibly not sufficient. Or should we take that health is a state when the individual is able to do the basic, activities of their day-to-day life? I guess again not. Just being able to do what is needed or expected of you, and if you are able to do so, and saying that is health, again possibly that's possibly not a very good idea. So last point. Should health be defined as a balance or equilibrium when a person is able to fulfill the requirements of society as per their own conditions and still able to do well? What does that mean? What I mean is that well-being, the concept is much better and captures health in a much better way, that it talks about that internal equilibrium, that even though we may have certain problems, because we always have certain problems physically, psychologically, socially. Excuse me, is anyone wants to ask something? Okay, I guess not. That was a background.
Yeah. Yes,
no.
Please continue. Yeah.
Okay, so if we understand health as a well-being, that is an equilibrium between our internal resources and problems we are having. So even with the problems, if we are able to fulfill what we need to do and something good for ourselves, which make us feel good and people around us feel good, then we are in state of well-being and health. What does that mean? Imagine, let's say I have a fever, okay? And even in that fever, I know that this is a temporary condition. And I know that right now I need to take care of myself, take a bit of rest and don't do much on any of the physical activities. And I make a balance, compromise on certain things. After a few days, let's say I am perfectly fine today. I don't have fever. And today I can do certain extra things, certain things which I compromised yesterday and do much more today. So what I'm trying here is seek a balance, right? Balance that when I need to take a respite, don't do too much and just take care of myself, I do that. And days when I can do extra there, I do that. And somewhere make a balance. So even with problems, whatever I may have, minor ones or major or severe ones, but still I make a balance between trying to do something at best what I can do for achieving expectations from life, taking care of myself, making myself happy and making others happy. Possibly that is a better definition of health and well-being. So if we keep this definition in our mind, then very clearly illness, physical or mental, whatever that may be, is a particular condition which can be diagnosed. So illness or disease is a very specific connotation. Also, why this is important to know is that we may feel stressed out, but stress doesn't mean mental illness. We may feel anxious, but again, that is not anxiety disorder. Disease or illnesses are very specific. A situation or a problem may lead to disease. If you are continuously stressed out for many months and weeks, it may lead to some physical or psychological illness, but that's a very specific condition which is diagnosed as per specific symptoms. So the way we get diagnosis of, let's say that you have COVID, or no, you don't have COVID, you have typhoid, right? That is determined as per symptoms. Similarly, mental illnesses also have their unique symptoms, and only diagnosed with them gives this particular term, and then only a person has an illness. Otherwise, those are just issues which need to be handled in a different way. So if you understand all of this basic technicalities of health, illness, physical, mental, and disease, all of these, then we understand that we function at different levels depending upon the balance we are maintaining. Keep in mind the internal balance or equilibrium I'm talking about. And on an equilibrium, if we understand, then every individual, every human being is functioning at some of this level. You know, if you look at this graph, there will be a possibility that some people, maybe they have a mental disorder and functioning here. So when a person has a mental disorder, obviously they have a reduced possibility of taking care of their day-to-day needs. Their happiness level is low. People around them will also be having a problem as a secondary effect, right? Or a person may go through a mental disorder at one point of time in their life. Then there is another situation where there is a possibility that the person doesn't have any diagnosed physical or mental disorder, but they are still not doing well. They still feel there is something empty in their life. They still feel that, you know, there are certain issues because of which they are not able to live their life well. That condition is called languishing, which many of us feel many at times. It may be possible that in one day you feel at some point that you are languishing, you're not feeling good, you feel as if your life is not going well, but sometimes later on you feel okay. So there may be a deviation and variation the way you feel along those lines. It won't go to mental disorder, but it may go from languishing to mental health to flourishing. Then there is another situation which is called as a being mentally healthy, when a person is able to, you know, fulfill life, achieve life goals, live life in such a fashion that they are comfortable. It goes on well as per their own criteria. They have this sense of doing good in their life. That is called being mentally healthy. And lastly, the best situation, that is called as flourishing. Flourishing means when a person feels content with everything going on in their life, they feel that they are able to contribute to others' life. They feel that they have certain resources, they have people around them to be able to do all of these. And they also feel that if something happens, some failure happens, some problem comes, they'll be able to handle that. So just a feeling of that life is going okay, life is going well, that is being mentally healthy. But when your feeling goes even beyond that, when you feel that you are not only doing good, you feel satisfied with your life, you feel that you are also contributing to others' life, you feel that you are capable of handling may what come, then you are functioning at flourishing level. And in psychology, what we say is that just being mentally healthy is maybe not sufficient. It's good, you know, it's really something desirable. But if we are mentally healthy, we can go even beyond that. I just wanted to stress upon this point that though our topic today is mental health, but you know, we can get even more than that from our life, and there are ways to do that. Maybe that's not the topic for the talk today, some other time, but keep in your mind that there can be a condition when you are in much better situation, at much better place within you. Okay, so at the negative extreme, we have mental disorders, and at the positive extreme, we have flourishing. So I spoke about the mental health and mental illness, physical health and physical illness. There's one thing I want to talk here, which is slightly beyond all of these topics, but which is very pertinent. When I was recounting the issues and problems we all are facing, I was talking about increased screen time, right? Right now also we are sitting early morning, we are sitting in front of computer. I don't know how many of you will be spending many more hours in front of a laptop or a mobile screen today. So it's very important that we talk about how do we feel this well-being I spoke about in the digital life of our own. Because right now half of our life is going in the digital world, right? Half of the time we are either in front of laptop, mobile, or TV, you know, any of those digital devices. So how do we understand and why it is important? Let's just have a look at this particular infographic. Just have a look at the amount of increase has happened in the time we spent in front of digital devices. Okay, and the time frame is between 2011 to 2021 only. Okay, 10 years, like recent, just now 10 years. In 10 years time, if you see that there was a time when obviously most of our people were spending time on radio. That's what was available. That has reduced almost to 19% from 2011 to 2021. I'm not even talking about magazines, okay? Forget about it. That's like recreation. So digitally, we are not considering magazines. So forget about magazines. Look at the TV. TV, there's again a decline of 24%. There was a time that in 2011, people were the amount of time people were spending on TV has reduced. Why it has reduced? Because that time has been shifted to the time we spent on computers and especially mobile phones. Mobile phones have become a device which has pushed off so many other devices out of market. Do you how many of you really have a radio at home? Does anybody has radio today? Hardly few. Either you listen to songs on mobile, or at max what you do is that you possibly have a new kind of a radio which is called Karwa, right? Which makes you feel as if you have radio, but again that's sort of a digital device, right? How many of us have a camera? Hardly anybody has a camera, unless you really like professional photography and you have a DSLR. Otherwise each one of us just click from mobile phones. So use of mobile phone and number of hours we spend on mobile phones, there is a 460% increase in that. Generally, people spend close to 8 to 9 hours on mobile. Even right now, I know most of you are possibly listening to my voice, but at the same time doing something on your phone. Or if not at that, if there is some vibration in your phone, feeling that there is possibly a notification, you will be distracted and you will just pick your phone to see that what message is there, isn't it? It's just sort of a conditioning, and many of us feel a bit of restlessness if you don't immediately see what messages are there. So I'm not getting into the digital addiction, but what is important for us to understand that how do we have a well-being in this area? How do we understand that we are not using technology in a fashion that it creates issues for us, for our mental and physical health? So a term which is coined, which is called digital well-being, it's a state of personal well-being which is experienced through a healthy use. So there are benefits of these digital technologies, but they may lead to issues, and we all know about it. You all possibly scold people in your family, your children or teenagers, because they use too much of your phone, too much of their phone. But maybe we also do something similar, right? So what we really need to do, considering the current circumstances, is to focus on how are we utilizing these digital devices, and are we doing it in an appropriate way. There's another term which is called technoference. Technoference term means that when technology and use of technology disrupts our daily life. You must have heard people suggesting that you should not take your mobile phone to your bed. Before sleeping, do not watch, do not see mobile phone because the screen light that disrupts your sleep. It actually physically disrupts it. The sleep cycle is disrupts because of those Blu-ray lights, right? And there are many such conditions. So technoference is a term which is used to talk about issues which may be created due to digital, device uses. Let me give you some specific conditions, some of the specific situations which are part of, social media very clearly. I was taking name of Facebook, and there is Instagram or YouTube. There are many such platforms, any of the social media platforms. We know that there are issues related to having a different kind of a digital identity. We have heard about, Facebook, people project their life differently, what they actually have. That whole pretense of showing that my life is perfect, and all of that. And then we watch something amazing happening in others' life and we feel bad, oh, nothing is happening in my life. And then we feel sad about it. And then some of us, we try to just project whatever good is happening. This whole dual identity we are creating, is it good for us? It can't be. Authenticity is something. Fakeness is never good for us. But social media has imposed that on us. Another thing which is very relevant for teenagers, cyberbullying is very common. If there are teenagers who are involved in gaming, there is a lot of bullying which happens there. And another unique feature is all those dating sites. I have said swiping right. Dating sites now becoming very popular in India also. Possibly 5 years back, it was not so popular. Not many people knew about apps or sites like Tinder, or many such things are there. And so the whole practice and the way we had relationships, the way we handled relationships, that is changing.
Oh, madam, can you explain the digital identity? Is not clear to me.
Okay, sure. So what I mean by digital identity is the kind of personality we are trying to project on the digital platforms. Okay, so think of your Facebook profile. Okay, on Facebook profile, you choose what kind of post you want to share, right?
Okay.
Which may not be exactly what you always like. Let me give you an example. Let's say, please excuse me if it is contradicting, it is controversial. I'm just trying to make a point here. So just, a disclaimer that I do not mean anything. It's just an example. So let's say that you have certain very strong political ideologies, right? But you are very conscious and you don't want to share those on your Facebook profile, because you know that as a government employee, you should not be sharing such extremist ideas on Facebook page, right? Or just the opposite of it, that you want to show that you have such political ideas, whatever that may be. So what I'm referring here is that in on digital platforms, many of us are projecting ourselves in a different way than what we really are. We are projecting our life in different way than what that really is. And that creates in different issues in multiple ways for ourselves because of that pretense. For others, because they feel that so good is happening in others' life and their life is not so good. So these digital identities are creating a whole lot of issues. Is that clear now? Or
Yes, madam. It's very clear. Thank you. Yes.
sure. Okay. So as I was saying that, I just talked about 3 specific situations of, specifically digital condition, which is social media, and there are many such issues. Point is, what do we need to do here? Okay, we can get into the details of that, but instead of getting into the detail of it, if we are mindful about the issues which are there and then try to think what we should do, because there are many opportunities as well, there are many benefits, we should not be ignoring those. So how do we keep benefits and try to avoid the problems? Few possibilities. First is we need to choose the right platform. Decide where you want to be. Do you want to be on Facebook? If yes, why? Why are you on Facebook? Do you want to be there so that you are connected with people? Do you want to be there so that you can share what are the good things happening in your life? Why are you there? Know your reasons and behave accordingly. You may choose to be on YouTube. Why are you on YouTube? And just don't fall into the pressure of peers or society that you need to be everywhere because everybody else is going. Don't follow that bandwagon effect. Don't follow just the trend. Not needed. Then keep the rationality in your mind. I was saying that people pretend their life is so perfect. We need to understand that just because something good is happening in somebody else's life, maybe that is happening. We don't need to burn our house for that, just a metaphor. So we need to keep our rationality, and the most important part is having a balance between offline and online. How long should be there on online and what you should be doing offline? So it's not only about screen time, it's also about that you have life more than on that digital device. We have seen, like you must have seen when you visit restaurants, not maybe in a recent time, but we have seen that there may be few people sitting on same table, but nobody's talking to each other. They are in their mobile phones. Is that really needed? Is that what we want? Is that actually appropriate as per the human nature? No, it's not. We need to have that balance and keep that in our mind. And finally, socializing. Having maybe 1,000 followers on a Facebook makes us feel good. But having a good close friends outside of that is equally as important, if not more. So having a set of people with whom you talk, you socialize outside of digital devices also is very significant. And how can we think and teach this digital well-being to ourselves and others? That is something we need to start thinking of, because pandemic has really made us spend time on devices, because that is something becoming a requirement of our life. So it's high time that we start thinking about digital well-being. Okay, so I have talked about all the background, the issues, the problems, the well-being, the definition, the assumption, the stereotypes, and also the digital well-being. But I want to now move to the helping part. Before I move to helping part, again, I want to show you one video, and maybe again the audio will be not visible. So I would request ma'am to tell me if it is again not audible. Let me know, I'll give the narration again. But it's a pretty simple one. Even without narration, you'll be able to understand what I'm talking. Is it audible?
I'm still not audible. Sahaj, are you there?
Not audible.
No problem. Okay. So let me just give the narration. Start from start.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Sahaj, will you be able to help madam?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please stop sharing your screen?
Sure. One moment. 1 minute. Yes, I did.
Yes, ma'am. Now, when you start, click on that button to share screen. There would be an option to share sound. It would be a checkbox on the bottom of the box that pops up.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Let me try that out.
Yes, ma'am. Now this should work.
Okay. Thank you. Let's try.
Thank you, Sahaj.
Hope this works. Let's.
लोग बोलते हैं मैं बदला बदला सा लगता हूँ.
Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes,
Great.
ma'am.
have this typical depiction of what a pagal person looks like. और हमारी society की understanding of mental illness begins and ends there. लेकिन क्यों?
Are you ready? I have begun therapy.
In the Atharva Veda, mental illness is said to be caused by divine curses, and in Ayurveda by pishachis or evil spirits. What we now classify as mental illness was viewed around the ancient world as possession by evil spirits, and treatments often involved charms and amulets with magical powers that would tame the possessed person. This notion that a person with mental illness needed taming shaped treatment practices for years, from the Bethlehem hospital that isolated the insane in the 13th century to Salpêtrière hospital in the 17th century, where patients were chained and placed in small cells like prisoners. In the 18th century, this attitude did change in the West. European reformers advocated therapy focused on an uplifting, healing environment, while physicians began to question the mainstream understanding of mental health, arguing for the first time that illness could be psychological. It was this approach to treatment which led to the formation of India's first asylum in 1745. Though some of the asylums followed more humane treatments, most were still structured to isolate patients with mental illnesses from the rest of society, because they were considered dangerous. Although there has been a gradual shift towards community care and more compassionate treatments, even today, mental health advocates criticize institutions for ill-treating patients, not giving them enough agency, and reinforcing the idea that a person with a mental illness must be taken away from society to control their disorder. Added to this stigma in modern medicine is the popularity of some traditional healing practices which continue to propagate the notion that mental illnesses are a product of evil spirits. And such beliefs inform popular perceptions of mental illness. One study in India found that 60% of people believe that those with mental illness should have their own groups to avoid contaminating healthy people. And 68% believe that they should not be given any responsibility. From Bollywood movies that mock mental illness to sensationalized news reporting that foregrounds violence, the media further reinforces these negative perceptions. People with mental illnesses are portrayed as violent, murderous, and unpredictable, and are often blamed for their own conditions. All this shaming in the media, in our healthcare systems, and in our interpersonal relations not only harms those suffering from severe forms of mental illnesses, but also makes us deny its common forms like depression or anxiety. But the fact of the matter is, 1 in 10 Indians has a mental health condition, and 1 in 20 is depressed. So instead of denying that mental illness can affect our loved one who has no good reason to be depressed, or instead of claiming that it's just a phase or attention-seeking behavior, maybe it's time we start taking mental illness seriously. Let's take a cue from mental health advocates and activists and start talking about mental illness in our schools, colleges, our homes, and workplaces. Let's finally recognize the agency and experiences of people living with mental illnesses. And let's work towards ensuring that people seek help and can access it.
So before I start talking about helping, I wanted to show you this video to emphasize on one point. I know all of you would agree that even today we have those local healing practices. I don't want to make any statement on it. But what I want to say is that the way we understand that physical illness requires an appropriate treatment by a trained doctor. Similarly, we need to gradually develop this practice that a psychological illness also need a proper treatment by a trained doctor. We need to move toward that. As individual, as people, and as society, we haven't yet moved there. We are still mostly, if not in ancient era, we have traveled very less in understanding mental illness and giving it a proper care. So I won't get into that formal treatment. I will keep myself on the topic of helping at our level as an individual, as a lay people who are not trained to treat mental illnesses, but small mental health related issues, stresses, anxieties, how we can help in those situations. So I'll stick myself till that point for today, because maybe this is not the right platform or time or required to talk about disease, mental disease. Let's talk about stress, okay? Only mental health. And again, to give you one of my quotes, I say this, that if you want to clean a surface, let's say you want to clean your table, if the cleaning cloth you are using, if that is not clean itself, that's dirty, you can't expect the table to be cleaned. The cloth needs to be cleaned first in order to clean something else. Why I'm saying this? Because when we try to help someone, the way we feel within, if we are not mentally healthy, if we are not in good mental condition, we won't really be able to help the other person to the best of our possibility. And that is why we need to be helping ourselves first, because by helping ourselves, we are in a better position to help somebody else. So I want to start with that, and that's why there are two parts of this supporting this providing, supporting and providing role. First is we need to have this authentic responsibility and realistic expectation. Means what? By authentic responsibility, I mean to say that you may not be in a position to help everyone and for all kind of problems. Understand, many a times we are not that sort of a person who can really provide good suggestion to someone. Know what your qualities are. If you think that you are good in helping someone else, go ahead and do that. But if not, step back, send the person to the appropriate person. So know what you can, what you cannot, and then take a responsibility. Your intention may be good, but at times only intentions are not sufficient. Second, by realistic expectation, I mean that when you yourself is trying to seek help, please understand that nobody can give you a ready-made solution. Many a times what happens, and this has happened to me a lot, because being a psychologist, being a person who takes care of well-being activity at my institute, students and other people come to me thinking that I will give solution to their problem. We can't give solution. We can suggest a solution. It's the person themselves, they need to think whether that suggestion works for them or not. And same applies to us. If we go to someone to get solution, we are having an unrealistic expectation. We can go to others to take their suggestion. We can go to others to share our problems, because sharing in itself is helpful. But we ourselves need to check and assess which solution will work for me, for which problem of mine. So in this whole seeking and providing support, we need to be very clear on our responsibilities, authentically when we are trying to give support, and we need to be very realistic in our expectation when we are seeking the support, and we need to be aware of our own position in this. So if I talk about, as I was saying, that your cloth need to be clean in order to clean something else, and we are actually bad at that. Especially in Indian culture, we are bad at taking care of ourselves. Because see, it's nothing wrong. It's just a product of our cultural practice where we give a lot of value to other people. And as a byproduct of that, we give less value to ourselves. Many times we feel if we are trying to do things for ourselves, we are being selfish, and being selfish is bad. We need to disintegrate these concepts. We need to be compassionate to our own self. Think of your own self for a moment and try to recall when something has gone wrong and you feel that it was your fault. We all criticize ourselves so badly. Try to recall your internal thought. Whatever happens, you start thinking that I did wrong. It's my mistake. I always do this. I am not capable. I am not good enough. I can't do this. I can't do that. All of these statements we think internally, and we don't realize that it's same as somebody else giving you negative feedback. It feels bad, right? So when we ourselves say those things to ourselves, even then we feel bad, and we take our own words at the face value. We think that that's the truth. We are not capable. We are bad. We are not appropriate. We don't realize it, because if you rationally think, you will know that those are just emotional statements, but they affect us. So first thing what we all need to learn is self-compassion. Be compassionate to your own self. And there are three components of compassion. First, be mindful. Be mindful when you feel physical, emotional, and mental pain. Experience it, acknowledge it. Then be kind to your own self. Even if it was your fault, if something wrong happened, it's okay. When somebody else make mistake, what do? You don't always scold them. You try to look at the intention behind it. It was a mistake, unintentional or genuine mistake. You are kind to other people, right? So why can't we be kind to ourselves? And thirdly, accept that such things, negative experiences, feeling bad, and even criticizing, it is common to all of us. So if you are, don't start criticizing yourself because you criticize. So it's like a vicious loop. You keep on criticizing yourself for everything what you do. Not needed. So first what we need to do is start with compassion. And when we talk about helping others, we need to be very careful in certain situations. One, let's say as an employee, you are taking care of people who are working at different places. Right now, many of the people are working from home. So your colleagues may be at different place and you are supposed to take care of them. Be very careful, because there are people are living in different conditions. So be supportive, but make them accountable. Many of us are struggling right now with the things to do, and people are also taking advantage of that. So just because you are helping someone doesn't mean you should be taken for granted, or people should take benefit of you. Make people accountable. Then we need to provide the feedbacks. Talk to people who are not performing well. We need to learn how to handle them. We need to learn how do you handle stress and uncertainties of other people, and how do you handle emotional expressions on some people. Let's say you are having a meeting and all of a sudden a person just has a big like emotional outburst, or they're criticizing someone else, or they are feeling very sad. What do you do if you are in a position who's supposed to take care of those things? These are certain conditions we need to be very careful about, because right now all of these are happening in a different way, the way they used to happen. Another thing which is very important, and we don't really think about it, and that is toxic positivity. Everybody says that be positive, be optimistic, think about good things. But making such statements are not always helpful. Sometimes they are actually more damaging than the negative statements. Let me give you certain examples. One, at your own level. When somebody else is in problem, you say, it's okay, sab theek ho jayega, just be happy. When it comes to you yourself, you can't give same message to yourself. You think negative. That's one aspect. Second aspect, there are certain statements we use very commonly when we are trying to help someone and pacify others. Let me tell you, it's not healthy. It's not good. It doesn't help. For example, if somebody is going through problem, what do we suggest? Arey, don't think too much about it. Stay positive. Things will get better. Not helpful. Because in that situation, what a person wants is you to listen to them. So in that situation, a better statement is, okay, I'm here. Tell me, what are you feeling? I'm ready to listen. So instead of disregarding the pain a person is feeling and saying that, just be positive, everything will be okay. Instead of that, let them feel, let them express what they are feeling and listen to it. Or the statements like, don't worry, be happy, or don't think about failure. It's not an option. You should always think about success only. We don't realize that we are putting undue pressure on an individual who's already pressurized. Or positive vibes only. I only want those people from whom I get positive vibes. I don't want I don't want negative people around me. Really? If you are in a situation who's supposed to help others, sometimes people who are not feeling good, you need to be close to them. It is understandable that you also get sad in return if people around you are not feeling good. But it's a part and parcel of helping someone, right? So toward the left side of this table are the statements, what we usually say. Ye to kuch nahi hai. There can be things even more, worse than this. Or why are you thinking of your own problem? People are going through much more than you. We all do that, right? We all say such statements. But don't you think that it's not helpful? If you are at the receiving end, you know that it doesn't make you feel good. So what should we say? These are toxic. They sound like a positive statement, but they are not positive. They don't yield a positive outcome. For positivity, we need to do something else. What is that something else? And that I called a emotional hygiene. And our education system is actually bad in teaching emotional hygiene. We have taught our kids physical hygiene, na? Brush your teeth twice, take bath every day. If you hurt yourself, put a band-aid on it. We all have taught our children of this. Have we taught anybody? Have you been taught how to take care of your emotional pain, emotional hygiene? Let me tell you that, okay? That is something what I'm telling that to everyone. First is, pay attention to your emotional pain. If you are feeling bad, listen to it. Think, why are you feeling that pain? If it is really hurting bad, somebody has said something and you're feeling really bad about it, think why you are feeling bad about it and how you can handle that, how you can take care of it. Then protect yourself.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Time up, ma'am. Will you please able to complete?
Yeah. I'm almost at the end.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you.
Then, finally, it's important that we feel good about ourselves. We feel that we are capable of doing things. And then we have to handle negative thinking and take care of all of these psychological wounds, hurts we are harboring. So when we are aware of these things for ourselves and others, we are actually emotionally available, and that's the best what we can do to help people. And what really helps? 5 things. These are 5 rules which are called PERMA, which makes people happy. When you feel positive emotion, when you feel engaged in certain things, you have good relationship around you, you are engaged in certain things which you feel are meaningful, and you feel that you have accomplished certain things. So when you look at these and help people follow these, you can accept, feel compassionate, have a courage and wisdom to do what is needed. So this is my last slide. Know where you are and what you can do to make yourself feel better, be happy, take care of not only yourself, but also others who are around you. So you can start with giving yourself a tight hug. Say it's okay when things are not feeling very good, or say good job, you did well when you have done something good, and extend the same thing to others. So that's all what I wanted to say. I hope I gave you the brief of everything what I could. Deeper things again that can be shared. Best of luck. Take care of yourself and everybody else. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for all your wonderful presentation with all your video clips as well as with your PPTs as well as images in between. Thank you so much. It was a really wonderful session with so much information. So without information, we are nothing. So you have touched each and every section that actually what I intended to have here. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks for your good time here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead, everyone. Can I log off now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam, will you share this PPT to us?
The PPT is already shared, emailed to ma'am, so she
Okay.
can give it to everybody.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ankita, ma'am, you are presenting a lot. Actually, it is not the. It's not. I think it's not only FDP. It is applicable to all. You know, in our. I don't know whether it is correct or not. Whether the teaching of our means guidance of our parents.